This is the Sony RX100 Mark III, a premium compact camera with an f1.8 to 2.8 24 to 70 millimeter equivalent lens, an all-metal body, a cute inbuilt viewfinder, and I bought it about 2 years ago for $250. This is a FujiFilm X100, a premium, somewhat compact camera with a 23mm f2 lens, an all-metal body, and an inbuilt optical viewfinder. I bought this camera about a year ago for $300.
The X100 can currently be found for almost $1,000, and the RX100 can be found for $500, both used in excellent condition. What happened over the course of just 2 years that caused these cameras to double or triple their value? And should you even consider buying one of these 10-plus-year-old cameras today?
Briefly, let's talk about how we got here. How did nearly every compact camera double or triple their price in the past 2 to 3 years? And I think it comes down to two main reasons. The first of which is the one I'm sure many of you are already thinking of, and that is TikTok and short-form content. People fell in love with its retro design and film-like photos it could produce. The newer versions of this camera have been completely sold out for the past 2 years, and this led people to go to older and older models until there weren't any older models to go to, causing the price for every model of this camera to go up dramatically from where it was a few years ago. The second reason is that coinciding with the rise in this camera's popularity on TikTok, we also saw the end of many countries' lockdowns, meaning that people were able to travel again and they wanted a small camera to take on their travels. This caused a dramatic number of people to be interested in this camera who otherwise wouldn't be. These two things happening at the same time means that there's suddenly a dramatic increase in eyeballs looking at this type of camera, cameras which are small, high quality, and take better photos than what you can get on your phone. Regardless of how we got here, should you actually consider buying one of these cameras today at their inflated price? Let's start with the X100. Now, I made a full dedicated review of the X100 about a year ago, but the short version is this. The X100 is a 13-year-old camera, which is starting to show its age in some ways. The screen and picture quality struggle in low light. The menus are old, laggy, and clunky. And the raw files from this camera do not have the same amount of flexibility that we have become accustomed to in more modern cameras. All of that being said, however, there are still parts of this camera that are amazing today. The optical viewfinder on this camera is still a joy to use, and if you're in the right lighting conditions, the photos that come out of this camera still look fantastic, with some people swearing by the colors of this sensor. The camera also has fantastic build quality, being made in Japan and having a metal body. You're also getting physical dials for shutter speed and aperture, which means that in most everyday cases, you're avoiding all of those clunky menus. Pairing that with the excellent viewfinder and great picture quality in the right light, and you are getting a camera that is still really enjoyable to use today. And in the right conditions, all of the negatives just disappear into the background. Switching over to the RX100 Mark III, this is now a 10-year-old camera being released in June 2014. And looking at it now, it is shocking to see just how well this camera has held up over the years. When looking at the menus to this camera compared to the Fujifilm, it feels much more modern and feature-rich. And the screen does not lag in the dark like the Fujifilm does. The RX100 also has optical lens image stabilization, which makes it a lot easier to get low light photos. The Sony files also hold up a lot better, and I think that this has been one of Sony's strong suits for the last decade, is their files are very malleable, and the RX100 is no exception. And compared with the Fujifilm's 720p 30fps video, the RX100's 60fps 1080p video is downright fantastic, and actually holds up today. Many of the shots from this video for B-roll were actually shot on the RX100 just to show that it still looks quite good. However, this camera is still far from perfect. It has been a decade after all. The inbuilt viewfinder is very small and low quality compared with more modern cameras. The dials are also significantly worse feeling when compared with the Fujifilm. They can be mushy and laggy at times. The lens cover also has the habit of getting stuck. And when it does get stuck, it can be difficult to unjam. It is my opinion that even 10 years later, this camera has no right to be as good as it is. But should you consider buying either one of these cameras today? I thought when the Fujifilm X100 went above $500 that was a ridiculous price to pay even a year ago. And now that it is close to $1,000, I think that that's absurd. It has a lot of incredible things about it, but it also has a lot of downsides. And when the MSRP of the X100V is supposed to be $1,400, having the original be $1,000, that doesn't make sense to me. The Sony, on the other hand, I am much more conflicted by, because at $500, there still just isn't much competition for it at this tiny of a size. In a world where both of these cameras were the same price, like they were for me a few years ago, I think that the Fujifilm is the better option for if you're looking for a camera that is enjoyable to use, while the Sony is a better practical option. I am really curious what we're going to see happen to this market in the next few years, because just a couple years ago, I thought it couldn't get any crazier than it already was, and it's doubled. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and God bless.